Hi everyone, in this video we're going over questions 18 to 22 of ACER's Green booklet, which is also just called Practice Test. As always, I am using the second edition of the booklet, and feel free to email me or go to the website if you have any more questions or you need more resources. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a summary of what's going on in this passage because I know this is a little bit confusing, so I think it's easier if we just start with the summary. So there's basically what the passage is saying is that there's a growing movement of people that are against animal testing. They don't want animal testing and they call themselves the anti-vivisection. Now, the scientists who do the testing, they say, well, we are very focused on improving the care of the animals that we test. We have all these um, processes and procedures in place to make sure that the animals are as safe as they can be when we test them. So they are talking about improving care of the animals. However, the anti-vivisectionists, this movement, they say that they care about animal rights, not just the care of the animal or the treatment of the animal. Okay, so that's kind of the first bit. Then the author comes in and the writer says that it's very interesting because human rights was something that we just decided arbitrarily, which is true. We decided arbitrarily to treat people equally. That's what the Declaration of Human Rights is. There wasn't any sort of fundamental, like scientific physics, chemistry kind of fundamental law of the universe that says we have to treat people equally. Which is why, for a very long period throughout human history, and even now, you could argue humans have not been treated equally. But he's also saying that we as humans decided that we humans should have equal rights, but animals don't have equal rights as humans, but because we also chose that too. We chose not to give animals the same rights as humans, which is why we can do things like testing on them. But the fact of the matter is that was also a choice. There wasn't anything like as like a scientific fact about that. Okay, so this debate is not about fact; it's about humans. Sorry, it's not about fact; it's about values, not humans. About values. And scientists and animal rights people argue past each other because they care about different things. So the scientists care about the treatment of the animals, whereas the anti-vivisectionists care about the rights. And fundamentally, these two are incompatible, which is why they're often arguing it past each other rather than actually talking to each other. So the writer says we need to stop arguing and we need to discuss this in full by a public referendum. So hopefully that made sense. Okay, so question 18. The passage implies that for anti-vivisectionists, respecting animal rights involves. So we just have to look at this line, which says, refuting allegations of mistreatment and by improving the care for their research animals, this cannot satisfy the anti-vivisectionists. What are they saying? They're saying that even though the scientists are saying, no, we actually treat the animals really well and we go out of our way to them. We've got protocols, we've got laws about how we treat animals. The anti-vivisectionists are saying that's not the issue here. That's not the issue. The issue is not the treatment of animals, it is the rights of the animals. So therefore, the answer is B. So A, protecting animals from suffering. No, that's what the scientists say they're doing. They're saying we're protecting them from suffering because we're putting them in our beautiful lab environment rather than like out in the wild where they would be, there's predators and everything. C, attention to details of the animals' lives or minimizing or de-minimizing the dangers of the animals' lives. Again, that's what the scientists say that they're doing. They're trying to, provide a lot of attention to detail and minimize the dangers of their lives. But the anti-vivisectionists are like, nah, not good enough. What we want is non-interference in animals' lives, which is answer option B. Question 19. The passage suggests that researchers A, make dishonest claims. No, that's just false. There's no evidence that they're making dishonest claims. B, have no interest in animal welfare. That's also wrong because it says that the animals are in air-conditioned rooms and are fed. So clearly there is interest in animal welfare. C, ignore the fundamental position of anti-vivisectionists. Yes, that is correct. Like I said, these two groups, they're just arguing past each other, where they're talking past each other and not talking to each other. And then that's why it says this is why verbal combats have led nowhere, because they're arguing sort of about different things. They're not arguing about the same thing, they're arguing about different things, and so therefore there hasn't been any progress. And then D, underestimate the improvement required in laboratory conditions. That's sort of irrelevant because they already have good laboratory conditions, as said here, and it's irrelevant to the point. So that is why the answer is C. Question 20. According to the passage, the original motivation for the establishment of human rights was moral, altruistic, pragmatic, or ideological. The answer is C, pragmatic. It wasn't moral, um, or altruistic. Altruistic meaning like sort of good for the world or ideological. Um, the reason I'm just trying to find the exact sentence. Give me a second. Here. In the second paragraph, it says, why do people have equal rights? There's no unequivocal answer to the question. Humankind arbitrarily decided to establish a situation of equal rights, presumably because this would be beneficial for social life. For social life. So humans decided that we're going to give everyone equal rights because why? It's beneficial for social life. Not because there was some moral, ideological reason to. They just decided that it would be more beneficial for everyone to be treated equally than not treated equally. So that's why the answer option here is C. 21. According to the passage, the animal controversy is based on. So as we said before at the very top in the summary, it's based on a discussion of values rather than facts, right? And as I've already said a few times, they're arguing past each other because they're not actually arguing the same thing. They're just fundamentally arguing different things and fundamentally have different points of view. And so that's why the answer is D, based on value judgments rather than matters of fact. And this is why it's really important to understand the main idea of the passage. Once you've got the main idea, very quickly you can get through the rest of the passage. If, say, for example, you calculate that the amount of time to do a unit is, say, like 10 minutes, you should spend 8 of those 10 minutes figuring out what the main idea is. And then you can spend the final 2 minutes actually doing the questions. Because once you've got that main idea down, every question becomes very, very fast and very easy to do. But if you don't have the main idea down, then it becomes very confusing, and that's when you run out of time and lose marks. Okay, question 22. So we have this quote from Thomas Jefferson, which says, all men are created equal. Jefferson's view and the view presented in the passage about animal rights. So, um, A, differ in their assumptions about the source of human rights. That is correct. Why? Because Jefferson says that all men are created equal, in this case, from God, the Christian God. Whereas in the passage says, we arbitrarily decided we are entitled to do so. So Jefferson is saying we are all created equal and independent from the creator. And then the passage is saying, we just one day decided that we will all be equal. So that's why they differ in their assumption about the source of human rights. And that is why the answer is A. I think it's important with this passage that you don't bring in outside information and you just take it at, face value that the passage is saying we decided to arbitrarily give equal rights, um, and you're not taking into like historical things that you may or may not know. I think students go wrong with this passage when they bring in outside information. So just take it at face value that what is being told to you is correct, and then just run with that as the truth for this passage. Okay, hope that helped, and I'll see you in the next video.